thing that needs to do. Okay. Steady this, all right, I think we're set. Timer. I like to be aware of how much time is going by.
How long is your podcast usually?
Conversations go between like 45 minutes and an hour-ish. I'm a little long-winded and, we have already a good rapport. So what winds up happening is we just get to talking, and at some point I'm aware that we have to wind it down. So anyway, let's move this wire. Okay. Every little noise shows up. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman. I am so very glad you're here. Today, I am here with Sapna Rad. She is from Texas, and she is a conscious, let's start this over. I'm gonna 1920. Okay. Where in Texas are you from?
Dallas.
Okay. I just got myself awkwarded out. All right, let's try this again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marcy Brockman, and I am so glad you're here. Today, I am here with Sapna Rad. She is from Dallas, Texas, and she is a certified conscious parenting coach. We have so much to talk about with her. She wants to empower parents who want to fill homes with kindness, connection, joy, and authenticity. She's a certified conscious parenting coach and neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, NLP practitioner, who studied under Dr. Shefali Tsabary, who's the author of the book Conscious Parent, and Dr. Bandler, who's a co-creator of neuro-linguistic programming. Conscious parenting is a powerful and rare blend of Western psychology and Eastern wisdom, and it lends itself to deep healing and awakening. Conscious parenting encourages the parent to look inward and heal their own traumas and wounds so they can then free their children to become the most expansive versions of themselves. And who wouldn't want that? As a parent, I think that's what we all want. Using her gifts of empathy and compassion, coupled with her joyful spirit, Sapna guides parents and families to step into the best versions of themselves by helping them identify and celebrate the unique contributions they bring to the world. Whether speaking on a stage or working with coaching clients, her message is simple and yet powerful. Feel good about who you are, where you are, so that we can move to where you want to be. I'm going to read that again because that's just fabulous. Feel good about who you are, where you are, so that we can move to where you want to be. That's very powerful. A recognized speaker and motivational powerhouse, Sapna moves her audiences with heartfelt storytelling and provides actionable goals that lead to empowered and authentic life. Her greatest passion is holding sacred space for people and reminding them that they were born holy and worthy. Her work has been featured on multiple media outlets and organizations such as People Impact Network. When she isn't teaching, you can find her on some adventure around the world. That's exciting. She also appeared on Local News 8 in Dallas with Good Morning NTV Houston and was featured on Local Profile in Collin County. And she is making her way in the world and helping all of us in the process. Welcome, 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 Sapna. I'm so thrilled that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. I have 1,000 questions, but we always start, or I should say usually start the interviews with 6 questions. I did give you them ahead of time, but you don't have to write what you or say what you wrote. We're just going to do them quick and see what happens.
I don't remember what I wrote.
No, so it's fine. I shouldn't even tell people ahead of time, but because it makes people nervous. Anyway, so what 5 words would you use to describe yourself?
Loving, kind, and brave. Being kind and brave was my hardest work to get into, my core, to find the core of my being kind and at the same time being brave. I didn't know you can be both. I didn't know I was both.
Wow.
Yeah, being kind, being brave, and I'm very, very adventurous. I love to try new things. Creative, yes, love to create new things, like to see others create new things. These
That's
were
awesome.
the layers that was hidden within me, which I didn't even know was there and was wanting to come out. And it took a lot of work.
Yeah, but worth it. Absolutely worth it. I didn't realize that I was a painter until my early 40s. So, didn't even occur to me that this was something that I love to do and that I needed to do. So you never know. Okay. What is your favorite way to spend a day?
Well, I love working with my clients to show them there's a way out of the whatever stuckness they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If they can find even the smallest path out of it, I feel I've had a good day. Apart from that, it's being with my son, trying to figure out his day, trying to be a part of his life in
Sure.
whatever way, in a positive way, or trying to figure out his struggles. So this is one of my perfect day. Being with my family and working with my clients would be amazing. And if I can be on a vacation on some part of, of the world,
Do all three at once.
yeah.
How old is your son?
14.
14. Oh, yeah, you said that a few minutes ago. 14. Awesome. It's a good age. Difficult age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as they're trying to pull away and they still need you, but they don't want to admit it.
Mhm.
It's dicey, but I'm sure you're doing it extremely well with all of your gifts here. What is your favorite childhood memory?
My childhood memory, even now, whenever somebody asks me, go back to your favorite memory, it's always the same memory, Marcy. You won't believe it. It's just me with both my parents in their best selves, like so happy, my mom cooking, my dad trying to play with me, and I'm like running around the kitchen. I think I was 3 or 4.
Nice.
The deep connection which I felt for a moment, where
Mm.
they were not worried about their work and they were so present with me. That's the key. That's why it stuck with me for so many years, because at that moment they were so totally present for me, like they were not wanting to be somewhere else. And that was so momentary, but I carry it all my life. I know I'm going to carry it all my life.
That's beautiful. And I love that it was just a moment, but even at that tender age, you were
Mm.
aware of it enough for it to really etch itself on your heart.
Yes, the
That's
connection
cool.
that I felt, but I didn't know it was called connection. It took me
No,
some
you just know
years.
how you
But
felt.
yeah, like they were there for me at that time. No other place they wanted to be even.
Right.
You know? So that was an amazing memory. It's still there with me. It shows how valued I was.
Sure. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the kind of mother that you are and the kind of coach that you are, because you know what that feels like and it can help people achieve that for themselves and for their kids.
Yes, of course. I've been on the both sides, a child, a rebellious teenager, an
Sure.
adult trying to figure out things, and a mother who doesn't know how to connect. So I have been there and done it all.
Yeah, all 360 degrees of that
Yes.
problem, of that issue. Yeah. It's huge. Okay, what is your favorite meal?
Anything cooked out of love. Trust me. Anything. I've
What a
traveled.
beautiful answer.
I've
Wow.
traveled and I love the creative part, like chefs who put their creativity and love into the dishes,
Hmm.
homemade meals that they make out of love. I just I just go for that. That's my niche in a way. I like to see meals, how they're made, and
Sure.
the kind of ingredients. No, the dish itself doesn't matter. How it's made, with what kind of ingredients it's made, what's the energy around the food.
Sure.
That's what matters to
That's
me.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think for years I've been trying to replicate my grandmother's brisket recipe that she used to make for holidays when I was a little girl. And she died with the recipe, and I don't know how to replicate it. And I've been trying all sorts of things. I've been asking people with the same like Western European Jewish lineage, like, how does your family do it? And I don't get close to the flavor. I've got good recipes, but
Yeah.
it's not the same. But I think now, just listening to you talk about food made with love, I'm wondering if the mismatch isn't the flavor of the recipe, but the grandmotherly love that was put in it that isn't in it because she didn't cook it and I did. I
Yes.
wonder if that's the
Yeah.
ingredient.
Yes, definitely. There is that ingredient
It's
of love. Yeah.
unquantifiable. Yeah, that's wow. That makes a lot of sense to me. Wow. Wow, that's a revelation. Okay, what one piece of advice would you like to give your younger self?
Um, this is a little bit more elaborate, complicated question to me in a certain way because I wouldn't give any advice.
Wow.
I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't gone through what all I've been through. So I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change that. But I wish somebody or something had pointed um, towards letting me know that whatever you're going through is okay. And I was such a sensitive child. I thought I was going crazy.
Hmm.
But now I know we're not. We're sensitive in this crazy world. There are sensitive kids in this crazy world. The world is crazy, not a sensitive child. The
Absolutely.
child is fine the way they are, perfect in the way they are. And coming back to what advice I would give, no, for me personally, I would say no. I am what I am today because of what I went through. Because I was sensitive, I had to learn
Sure.
how to be brave. Because I went through what I went through, I had to learn a way out of it. So I wouldn't give any advice. No, not from this point. No.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go back and change anything with my own life either, but I would like to tell the adolescent and early 20 something Marcy to trust herself more.
Hmm.
I don't think I would change anything necessarily
Yeah, but
because of that. I'm very happy with who I am now, but I think that trusting my own instincts and more would have helped me feel better earlier.
hmm, that's so true. But if I was a rebellious teenager, no matter what you would have told me, I wouldn't have understood. I would be
Okay.
like, you don't understand what I'm going through. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Somebody had to connect with me so that I could listen to them, and I don't think that was an option for me.
Right. Well, everybody's different. That makes sense. That makes sense. I just spent so much of my life looking outside of myself for the things that I wanted because I didn't think that I could do it myself. It didn't even occur to me. But had somebody said that, it might have made impact.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. There's no way to know. It is what it is. We are who we are, and oh
right.
well. Um, okay, so what is one thing you would most like to change about the world?
I would love it. I shouldn't say love it. I would say if people learned how to meditate, go inward, learn about themselves,
Yeah,
connect to themselves, it's going to be so much easier for them to connect to another human being. If they understand their own pain, if they understand themselves, it's going to be so much better for the world because they now can connect to another. We all are interconnected. We
sure.
all, right? There is a oneness here, but people believe that they are separate. And
Hmm.
how will they know that they're not separate is by understanding themselves. Understand in deep level, in a deep way. When they understand themselves, so much easier. Like, for example, Marcy, let me just tell you, when they don't understand themselves, let's say you don't know what it means to have a headache. We don't know the word headache, let's say. We don't know what it feels like. We just know it for ourselves that something is wrong in this part of the body.
Right.
You don't know how to communicate. You are going to feel alone, lonely, and you're going to think something is wrong with you because of this vibrations in your head, and you
Right.
don't know what to call it. You don't
And
know
you're
how to
scared and
you're scared.
isolated and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what is happening on a more emotional level with human beings. They don't know what's happening inside them. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to regulate, let alone understand another. I can't even talk nicely to another human being if I'm having a headache, let
Right.
alone let alone talk nicely or, understand another human being. It's so hard. So
Yeah,
if the whole world learned to meditate, look inward, this is going to be a better world.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I actually heard, I was listening to Alan Alda has a podcast.
Mhm.
I forget what it's called now. Shouldn't mention it if I can't remember what it's called. And he was interviewing Brene Brown, and they were talking about this exact thing, that if you don't have some sense of emotional literacy, it's called Clear and Vivid. I just looked it up. If you don't have some sense of emotional literacy, you can't figure out what you're feeling.
Mhm.
And she used a very similar metaphor with the headache.
Mm.
Like you have a pain and you can't explain it because you can't speak. So how are you going to get that? And it's very powerful as a metaphor.
Yeah, I remember, like, if your hands are tied and your mouth is taped and you have an ache and you can't point to it, that's what Brene Brown uses.
Yeah,
Like, you can't point to it. Like, somebody's asking what's wrong with you and you cannot point to it, but you're in pain. Your mouth is plastered. It's
right.
really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't have the language to be able to describe how you're feeling when someone asks you what's wrong, or if you know there's something wrong, but you're grappling with how to recognize it, how to name it, how to communicate it, how to mitigate it, you don't know how to communicate that, then you're sort of stuck.
Yeah, I didn't know the word for anxiety until my 20s. I didn't know I had not heard the word. I didn't know
Sure.
what it was, but I was the most anxious person ever.
That's hard to believe, just in this seeing your beautiful effervescent smile and the few minutes that we've been talking. It's hard to believe that, but there's a lot about us that gets unlocked and freed as we explore ourselves and figure our own psyche out, figure what motivates us and moves us and what blocks us and so on. So I would like you to walk us through your discovery of conscious parenting and what conscious parenting is.
So that again goes back to my childhood, as I was telling you. My parents were very hardworking. Let me tell you this, like, just trying to make the ends meet, running around. My dad used to travel, and it was just my mom with my sister and I. And she was trying to work, she was trying to make meals, she's tired. And I was a very high need kid who needed a lot of attention from her. Who has the time, Marcy? Think about it. You have to go to
Sure.
work, send the kids to school, and there is no concept of self-care.
Right. Yeah, I was a single mom for a long time. I
Yeah,
totally get that.
yeah. And now you have a kid who needs your attention, and you don't even know that there's something called, need, and you have to pay attention. I can imagine how tired my mother must have been. But in my tiny brain, immature brain, the meanings I made up was, I'm not good enough for my mother's attention.
Sure.
This is what happens when a child is left to their own devices. Like, you're on your own. They make up these kind of meanings, which led to behaviors, which is like, I needed her attention. So you're not going to give me positive attention. Okay, I know how to take it. So
Right. Negative attention is
negative
a good second
attention.
best.
Right. But as I got older and I had my own son, those were the memories of relationship for me. And I was like, had started to go on that route where I had rules and I was becoming obsessed with, cleanliness. And when my child was just being himself, messy, tired, I was becoming this monster. He was just being himself.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I had to do something about this. If not, I would destroy my child. And I still remember at one time I was putting so much pressure on him to be potty trained. He started getting so scared to even tell me when he had accidents. And I walked into the bathroom one day and he was trying to clean up himself because he was so scared to talk.
Oh, poor dear.
Oh, trust me, I broke down that day. I was like, what kind of a monster am I that I'm wanting, like, at 3-year-old is so scared. He
Yeah.
should be coming to me.
Yeah.
But instead, he's so scared of me. And that's when, something snapped. I had to change myself. That's when the journey started. I started reading a lot, practicing, taking courses, attending, wisdom teachers. I used to meditate before. Now I ramped up the meditation practice, use the tools, and now I help parents who don't have all this what I had.
Wow. That's a wonderful story. That's, nothing motivates quite like a mom who sees her kid in need,
Mm.
then you would move mountains in order to
Yeah,
make it better for your
yeah.
kid.
And I had no template. Like how do I, like, I knew you had to hug your child, you put him to sleep by 8. I knew all the doing part. I
Right.
didn't know the being part. My
Right.
being was cluttered with anxiety. Am I doing this right? Why is this not clean? Why is he not? My doing was fine, but my being was getting messed up, and that was leaking out into my doing. So I had to
Sure.
clean up.
And then causing him to have negative behaviors and his own set of anxiety because of the pressure that put on him.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I have to do something about this. It's not about my child, it's about me.
So then conscious parenting has the parent figure out what's causing all of those kinds of behaviors,
Yeah.
keeping them from understanding and living in the being part and being too task oriented in the doing part, um,
Yeah.
or whatever happens to be their own unique idiosyncratic issue or
Yes.
set of issues.
Mhm.
So you're doing introspective work on yourself as a person in order to be more in touch with who you are and give that better part of yourself to your kid.
Yeah.
So you're conscious about all of that. So it makes you a better parent. Am I getting it right?
Yes, perfect. Just because we have done something wrong doesn't mean you're wrong or you're bad or something. Just the awareness of it. The
Yeah.
awareness of it, shining the light on your behavior is huge. Once you're able to be aware of it, it dissipates. You can stop it at tracks. But if you
Right.
don't have the awareness and you're running a script or a story in your mind as to this is how it should be, then you are hijacked from the present moment. There's a time gap you see between kids and the parents.
Yeah.
Kids live in the present moment. They're not thinking about the dinner. They're not thinking about which school I go to. Will I survive?
Or
But
when to pay the mortgage or, anything.
but parents are always in the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? Will he get into college? Will I be a good mom? That's the time gap between the parents and the child I try to bring them together into.
So we need to slow the parent down so
Yeah.
that the parent is in the present moment and being mindful of that
Yes.
so that the relationship is good between the parent and the kid because there's no longer a time gap. They're both in it in the moment at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. How will you be in the present moment though? It's easy for us to say, okay, be in the present moment. But what is being in the present moment? You have to come back to this moment. And I teach meditation. That's why parents learn meditation, because it's not about being good at meditation. It's about being good at life.
Right. How do you
How do I explain that?
it's such a funny thing being good at meditation. Like we're going to judge ourselves on that too, you know?
Yeah. You don't become good. You don't meditate to become good at meditation. You meditate to become good at life. And that
Wow.
you're sitting on the mat with your thoughts, with the beliefs, the stories, and you're sitting there without reacting. When you can do that, you can bring that practice into life.
Mhm.
When the story comes, he should or she should, you're watching the thought rather than reacting to the thought that says life should be that way. And you
Right.
watch it as a thought rather than reacting to it. And it's a practice. You have to do it over and watch your thoughts, your beliefs, the stories, and we have been told these stories about parenting. A parent should be in control. The parenting is about the child.
Right.
We should raise a successful child, a happy child. When we buy into these stories and act as if these are written in stone, when life shows something that's opposite of it, like let's say a child is crying, just
Mhm.
normal, out of pain, rejection, or something, And we have our
Could be a spilled ice cream cone. I mean, kids cry all sorts of things.
yeah, but we have this that they should be happy. See, there's a conflict there.
There's a judgment there that we're holding them to some sort of judgment that we're holding ourselves.
Yeah. And then you want to fix the child now. You want to fix the child. Okay, stop crying now. You want to fix the situation rather than heal the situation.
Right.
And then if you haven't healed, they get stuck, and it's going to happen over and over again.
So at that point, you should, there's the word again. At that point, I guess the idea would be to analyze, maybe that's not the right word, to fine tune a discussion with the child to find out what he or she is feeling and what is causing the crying. And that
Yes.
it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Let's just put a name to it so we know how to deal with it, so that we can process what you're feeling.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And sometimes just sitting next to a crying child, being present,
Without
I'm
saying
right,
anything,
without saying
just holding space.
that's it. Just holding space, not saying anything, just sitting there. That itself is very healing for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have to say, they're making meanings. It's very subconscious. They're making meanings. Oh, okay. I matter to my parent. My crying matters to my parent. What I'm feeling matters. I matter. They're making these kind of meanings.
Right.
And this is what is going to launch them into their life ahead. The stories, the movies, and what they think about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up with very disconnected parents, especially my mother. My dad was working 75 jobs trying to make ends meet because my mom didn't work. And that was their dynamic, Lord knows. And she was narcissistic and bipolar, an undiagnosed self-medicated bipolar. So it was not a very healthy relationship there. And there were moments when we felt connected, when I felt connected to her, but they were very transient and unpredictable. And I grew up feeling very much like I was unworthy of love and did anything and everything that I could to please them or to please her. And so I became addicted to people pleasing. And I would sublimate my own feelings and my own desires and my own everything in order to be my projection of what I thought the perfect, dutiful daughter was to make her happy. And that's what I carried forward through my adolescence and my adulthood. When I became a mom, I knew that what she had done was 1,000% wrong because I knew how it made me feel. And I knew that I had to do something differently. And I was in therapy on and off for a long time and then went back into therapy to figure out, not knowing that there was a thing called conscious parenting. I was kind of doing that myself through my therapy, trying to figure out, all right, what were my expectations? How did I feel about what had happened with my own parents? And then how to do the 180 and make it better for my own kids. And I'm sure I made 1,000 mistakes as every other parent does, but I really tried to embody this idea of being very compassionate and teaching them emotional literacy so that they could be empathic with themselves as well as other people and, give themselves more kindness than I learned to give myself early on. So,
Yeah, that's so true, Marcy. Like, we tell our kids, be kind to yourself, but they watch us being so mean to ourselves. Like, how can I do this? How can I do that?
right.
I'm being so stupid of me. It's so easy for us to love our children. Like Brené Brown says this. It's so easy for
Yeah.
us to love our children, but so hard for us to love ourselves.
Right.
Because we think our children are perfect and we are not.
Right. Right. And nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes and everybody has moments where they're not living their best self. And, it's a part of the human journey, my guess is, So you wrote an article that was recently featured in Local Profile, Connecting Collin County, called How Conscious Parenting Helps Children Cope with Pandemic Stress. And you are the expert. So here in the article, you were talking about a client whose 10-year-old son was fidgeting and unable to keep still and had been acting out. And after some questions and a little bit of your counseling, you figured out that this child was acting out of fear that his mom was going to die of COVID. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and what all of that experience was like, because I'm sure that I know as a parent and as a public school teacher, I am intensely worried about what all of the anxiety and the stress of this long-term pandemic is causing in all of our kids.
Yeah. So important is connection, Mars. Coming back to that, connection and empathy and mirroring back what the child is feeling. This is so important when you mirror back. Oh, I see that you're feeling a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, what questions were you asking? That came in the moment. In the moment. I don't remember the exact questions, but I was
Sure.
connecting and I was empathizing the restlessness in the child. He was restless, like something was bothering the child,
Right.
right? Like something was going on inside him. So connection, empathy, and trying to mirror back. I feel restless too. I would be restless too if I was having thoughts that's unsettling. What do you think? What kind of thoughts do you think? So basically trying to connect, basically connecting, empathy, and mirroring back. This is so
Right.
important. When you do that, the child feels seen, the
That's
child
so
feels
important.
accepted, and then they open up. They feel safe. Importantly, they feel safe to open up. Once
Right.
they open up, then we get to know what the child is thinking. See, when we judge our children, they're not going to stop thinking or doing what we tell them not to do. They're going to stop telling us what they're thinking and doing. They're not going to stop doing it. So
Right.
it's important that they tell us what they're thinking, right? And for them to open up, they should feel safe around us.
Right. And even if they don't really know how they're feeling or what they're feeling, to be able to say, gee, I'm feeling something and it's making me, I can't sit still, or you see those behaviors because the kid doesn't have the language to explain.
Yes.
Isn't that the thing that the younger kids act out their feelings because they don't have the vocabulary to explain them?
They don't. We have to go into their world, whatever they are doing. That's why we have these coloring techniques. We play with them. Play is
Mm-hmm.
huge. Pretend play, that's where everything comes up. You can just walk into a place and watch a child pretend playing, and you know what is their environment, because that's where we pull from. And there is this I heard that, I've read somewhere that kids during the Nazi movement, the way they used to play was they used to try to bury each other up. Yeah, they were trying to replicate what they were seeing in their world. They were trying to
Wow.
be mean. They were trying to pretend play what they saw. So pretend play is huge. Kids don't know. They just know what they've seen in the world. They
Sure.
think that's what it is.
And they don't have the worldly experience to be able to compare it with other things. They only know what they see in their own narrow
Yeah.
slice of what they see and the stories they tell themselves.
Yeah. So play with the child. You will know what's happening in their world.
Wow. Now I wish I could like rewind the video, that we don't take videos, but rewind the video of my kids playing when they were little. Like, what things did I miss? What did my own parents miss? What did I play? I did a lot of artwork, and I remember having a baby doll even when I was very little, and I was very attuned to being a good mom to this baby doll. And I remember being in like first or second grade or something and having to go to school and in a sense hiring my mother to be a babysitter for the baby doll for her little grandbaby.
Mm.
And I wonder if that in some way was me asking for her to nurture me more, if she
Yeah.
would. Never sort of pieced that together until this moment. Wow. This is like therapy, Sapna. Fabulous. Wow. So do you have any advice for parents or caregivers about um ways they can reassure their child who might be anxious about the COVID experience or social distancing and that's necessary during the pandemic, that school might be interrupted. They might not be seeing their friends as much and might just be universally or a generalized anxiety kind of thing. What
I
would
would
you tell
suggest
them?
that, sorry, that they don't take out the anxiety. Anxiety is normal for being a human. It's normal. You need those parts that's saying, you should be scared of something that's going to come. So it's okay. But giving them a language, I know, you're feeling anxious. And what anxiety means they're projecting something in the future, that something's going to happen in the future. And
Right.
calling it a name, giving it a name, talking about, okay, I hear you, you're feeling that. And another tool I use in my coaching is having this conversation. What if this happens? If then, and completing it with a solution. If then, we'll do this. See, they have a solution. You're
Sure.
gearing them up for like the worst. And connection. The main piece. If you have the connection, Marcy, this is play. Other things are play. They're very creative. You will figure
Right.
out a way. The important is connection. You're not judging your child. You are in the present moment. You're tuning to your child's energy. You're not worried about yourself. You're not thinking about, your next
Sure.
meeting. Other things are they're just creative parts. You
And
don't
I'm
have
sure
to
that
love.
that if then statement and following that to its logical conclusion helps to give them a sense of control over the uncontrollable.
Yeah.
And so that even though you don't have any more control than you did 5 minutes ago, you're now telling yourself a more complete story so that it makes more sense.
Yeah.
So what if mom does get sick? Well, then we get her the medical care she needs and she'll have medicine and there'll be doctors and we'll take
Yeah.
care of her and everything will be fine.
Yeah. We all, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
We're not going to throw her out in the street, so
Yeah.
everything will be fine. We'll stay away and quarantine and do all the necessary due diligence, but things will be good. And then I would imagine, you know, the
But now the important thing is you have to do this over and over again, Marcy. You have,
repetition.
you have to talk to them over and over. You can't say, how many times to tell you we'll be fine. Look at the energy. That
Right.
doesn't work. You
No.
have to tell them over and talk to them over and over again. Because it's like first time, all the mess is coming. You cleaned it up. Then some residue of that, it'll come up until it's completely cleaned out of their system. So you have to, talk to them about it, connect and talk. Like we say, clean it up, talk it out,
Talk it
completely,
up
yeah, out of your
over
system.
and over and over again.
Yes.
Now, do you wait in certain circumstances? Would it be prudent to wait for the kid to bring something up again? Or should the parent do gentle reminders periodically?
Yeah, do gentle reminders, but if you think the child is not receiving it in a certain way, then back off. Attune to the movement is what I would say. Attuning, you will know, does the child need a skill right now? Does the child need a connection right now? Because sometimes it's skill, they just forget and you have to remind them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's connection. Sometimes you have to connect to them, and that takes attunement. You have to attune.
Yeah. Parenting's complicated. There's so many layers. We bring to it everything, all our wealth of experience and our own preconceived notions that we get from society and our own families, and we bring in our whole family history and how our parents were raised by our grandparents. It's like a multi-generational practice every single day that we
Yes.
have to sort of unravel to make sense out of so that we end the intergenerationality of the things that we don't want to pass forward.
Yes, and that's where the kids come in, right? Until kids come in, we don't look into those things which you just talked about right now. When
Right.
kids come in, they come with this invitation to take us to the parts that we need to heal. Until
Yeah.
then, it's not painful enough. We won't do the work. So kids are huge in that they come as this innocent beings, and they say,
Yeah.
they push us to heal. So it is a very sacred relationship, a parent.
Absolutely.
And if you
Absolutely.
do the work, you become profound in that. You become and children come as spiritual teachers. They tell you what you're thinking is not working. Your thinking is wrong. Change your belief. I'm not what you want me to be.
Right.
You can have an agenda. No, I'm not going to cry when I'm hungry. You can have an agenda. Like you can want me to be quiet when I'm in a meeting, but I'm hungry.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
they push you. They push you, and they are the greatest teachers.
Yeah. I had a moment where my kids and their needs forced me into a reckoning with my own mother
Mm.
so that I could protect them from her. And I think, and I've said this before, if podcast listeners have listened to previous episodes, I think I've touched on this a bit, but um, I think I would have allowed myself to be victimized by her bipolarity and her narcissism and her crazy drug addicted brain. I think I would have allowed myself to have been abused by her forever. I don't think I would have ended it had it not been for my kids, because that one last time that we spoke, she turned all of her venom on them.
Oh.
And it was in my living room. And it was like a light bulb moment, but it wasn't just a light bulb. It was like fireworks going off in my brain when suddenly I snapped and I instantly became the mama lion defending her den and her cubs. And I threw my mother out
Mm.
and I threw my stepfather out because he was just an oxygen depriver anyway. Like he just enabled my mother and sucked the air out of the room. So there was no point. And I threw them out and I'm like, you cannot treat me or us in this way ever, especially in my home. And until you straighten out and clean up, you are not welcome in our lives anymore. And I wrote her a very long letter then afterwards, like explaining myself and giving her an ultimatum. Either you choose health and drug rehab therapy, and I will be there every single day of your life to help you,
Mm.
or you will never see us again. And she chose the latter, unfortunately for her. And it was my children who helped me come to reckoning with that.
You see, yeah.
Yeah, it was them, because I knew in that moment that I had two choices. I could either allow them to be swallowed up by my mother's toxicity and her mental illness the way I had been, or I could pull us both out, pull out all three of us out of that situation and end it right there.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I doubled down on the therapy for myself, and I got the kids a therapist, and we worked it through. And I absolutely know with every single cell in my body that it was the right decision to make, because it ended the toxicity. The intergenerationality of all of that ended that day.
Yeah. Breaking of a pattern. Otherwise, you would have passed it on.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. It's hard work. It's not
It
easy.
was, yeah, I lived with guilt for a long time because although I knew it was the right thing to do for me and I knew it was the right thing to do as the mother of my children, the little girl inside me was like, how can you do this to your mother?
Yes. Yes.
I was
I
sort
know
of,
those. I know that script. I'm very familiar with
right. But, she didn't have, because of the drug addiction and the mental illness, she didn't have the script in her brain that said, well, how could you do this to your daughter and your grandchildren? And so, you figure out as you pull apart, you pull at all of the loose threads of the story, you start to make sense out of what's actually happening. And, she was unable to help herself, and she was unable to allow anyone to actually help her.
Mm.
So, I had to allow her to make those decisions as an adult and realize that my power to affect any change in her life was zilch. There was no power. So the only thing that I could control was how I parented my kids and how I raised myself at that point. So, um,
That's
and,
right.
and I think a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people, and there are so many people with very similar stories. So many
Yeah.
people whose family lives were less than ideal. So
Yeah.
we can just overgeneralize that way. And they have difficulty separating themselves from the way they were raised. And
Yeah,
we
that's
need,
so true. When I coach clients, inevitably everybody goes back to their childhood. It
Hmm.
all started in their childhood.
Right.
That's why conscious parenting in Dr. Shefali, they teach about zoning in on the parent child dynamic. That's that zoning in and healing that part is how we're going to heal the planet. Because any human being, Marcy, you talk to
Yeah.
any human being, they will go back to their childhood. This happened in my childhood. That's why I'm who I am today because of that. They
Right.
blame it on that, and they will pass it on. If they're not conscious, if they don't take the invitation, they're going to pass it on to the kids. And what you see in the world today is the result of this unhealed parts,
Yeah.
patterns.
So my whole book is about my figuring out how to heal myself, how to give myself permission to heal myself from the toxic template that I got from being my mother's daughter.
Yeah.
And and it was all in the childhood. Absolutely. I know that it's because I think we're at our most vulnerable where we don't we're completely dependent upon our caregivers, where you normally our parents, for everything. And because we're totally dependent, we have very little control over our own lives.
Mhm.
We are at their mercy for
Yes.
everything.
Yeah. And they have to love us to feed us. You see, somebody has to love you or like you to feed you. So, what happens is the child gives up. See, these are the two basic needs, being authentic and being loved. This is a basic human need
Mhm.
because
We're
when people,
hardwired for that.
we are hard,
Absolutely.
yeah, right? So, in our childhood, when our authenticity was not seen, so we give up that need, we push it so that we are being liked. But then
Right.
when we grow up, it doesn't feel right. We want to be authentic. We want to be, that has to come out. But then we still push that inside and want to be liked. We look outside. You
Right.
know this. I know this. I watch clients every day. Want to be liked, want to be liked. But at some point, we have to grow up and say, it's okay if you don't like me. I'm going to be authentic.
Yeah. I
That's
did that a lot in my first marriage because of my need to please my mother. I
mhm.
I transferred all of that to my need to please my husband,
Mm,
even if what I was doing or saying that I thought was going to make him happy was going against what I wanted. So I wasn't being my authentic self. And ultimately, the woman he was married to didn't exist because she was just an affectation. She was just a figment of my imagination. And so I was resentful that I didn't get to be myself. And I was always in mental anguish. And he didn't really have a wife that existed because, what I portrayed was not authentic. And then
mhm.
I was resentful. And it all stemmed back to how I trained myself to present myself because I thought that's what my mother would want. And therefore, what would make me more lovable.
Right. How messed up we all are,
I
Marcy,
know.
all the adults.
I
And poor
know.
kids, they come into this world and they're like, oh my God, this is a crazy world.
Yeah.
I tell you, poor
And
little.
sometimes the people that you're supposed to trust or that you have no choice but to trust turned out not to be worthy of that
Yeah,
trust
yeah,
because they're unwilling to do the work.
yeah. Unwilling, they don't want to. Trust me, this.
Yeah,
That's why this healing, we have to heal as grown-ups so we can set our children free.
absolutely. And ourselves free because there's no reason to burden ourselves with carrying that around all the time.
That's true. That's so
We'll
true.
we'll be even if we decide not to have children,
Very true.
we deserve to heal from all of this so that we can live more contented lives. I don't like to use the word happy because I think it leaves a false
Yeah.
sense of the fact that we're always supposed to be happy. And, you can live a contented, meaningful life and still have shit days now and then. It's just the way it is. Um,
Happiness is really overrated. People don't
it's
know.
transient. I'm
Yeah.
happy when I have a bowl of ice cream, but when it's over, am I not happy? I mean, I don't want it to be never ending. I'd get a stomach ache and, that'd be that. But I think living a life of meaning and value where we feel
Purpose.
valued and we feel seen and we have purpose is really the ultimate.
Yeah, that's so true. Amen to that.
Yeah. And it takes a long time to figure that out. Everybody's different. Everybody's path to that is different. And I think we need to allow ourselves the space and grace to figure it out. you know?
Yes. And that's why I'm saying if you're single and you're able to do this, awesome. Oh my gosh, awesome. But the pain that pushes you to heal is when you have kids.
Yeah.
Because what pushes you to change? There should be some kind of a pain that pushes you to change. Until then, you don't have a reason to change. You're like,
Right. You might not have the motivation to endure something as uncomfortable as the process of change
yes,
unless
you have some.
not doing the change is worse.
Yes, the kids give you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what last piece of advice do you think or message do you have to offer our audience today?
That it's going to be okay no matter where you are, and it's going to be okay. More than looking outside, inward journey would be greatly healing, and there is no better person that can heal than you doing your own inner work.
Yeah.
Do inner work, and it's okay whichever place you are in. There is no shame. Everybody has to go through this. Every human being on this planet, no matter which part of the journey you are in. So take the calling. If not now, 10 years from now, we have to take the calling.
It happens at some point. Yeah, you have
But
to
we all
do it.
have to do it. Why not do it now? Get some help. And we all are in this together. We all are in the same storm. We all will get through this.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sapna. I
Thank you so
appreciate you
much.
and your love and your light and your wisdom. It's been a lovely conversation.
Thank you so much, Mars.